From Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Saamiyah Syed. Our top story tonight. Even 100 years later, the families of victims of racial violence in the U.S. are awaiting justice and compensation. On May 31, 1921, a massacre against blacks in Tulsa, Oklahoma took place and lasted 2 days. Historians estimate a mob of whites killed about 300 people, most of them being black. On Tuesday, the oldest living survivor of the Tulsa race riots, 109-year-old Viola Fletcher, released a book with her grandson titled "Don't Let Them Bury My Story." In it, she describes how the race riots affected her life. Despite the severity of the incident, the massacre was barely mentioned in history books until 1997, when a state commission was formed to document it. The commission's final report, released in 2001, proposed the state paid $33 million in compensation to the 121 surviving members. In April 2002, a private religious charity paid $28,000 to the survivors, or just over $200 per person. A Tulsa County District Judge has yet to decide whether the last living survivors of the massacre can pursue the lawsuit. 46 Democrats, led by the Progressive Caucus, voted against the debt ceiling agreement negotiated by President Joe Biden and Republican leaders. 71 Republicans also voted against it. But the bill passed the GOP-controlled House by a vote of 314 to 117, with 165 Democrats joining 149 Republicans in supporting the measure. The legislation would lift the debt ceiling until January 2025 and enact painful caps on non-military federal spending. Representative Rashida Tlaib, opposing it, said we cannot continue to capitulate to a far-right Republican Party and their extreme demands. Reporters Without Borders is concerned about news websites generated by artificial intelligence siphoning off advertising revenue. These websites resemble reputable news outlets. The global non-governmental organization, which advocates for the right to freedom of information, has called on search engines and advertisers to slow the spread of automated content farms. Its tech desk director, Vincent Berthier, said AI should not be allowed to fuel a parasitic economy that diverts financial resources away from news media. He said there is a real risk of a further decline in funding that is vital to online media. Just earlier this month, NewsGuard, which rates the reliability of online news and information, identified at least 49 purported AI-generated news sites. NewsGuard's report says these automated content farms attract millions of internet users and optimize advertising revenue. Reporters Without Borders says advertisers have a great responsibility to redirect their funds only to trusted news sources. Yemeni-American law graduate Fatima Mohammed has become a target of Republicans and Democrats for her criticism of Israel. In a 12-minute speech at the City College of New York School of Law, Mohammed addressed atrocities against Palestinians. She said Israel continues to rain bullets and bombs indiscriminately on Palestinians, adding that even funerals and cemeteries were not spared. Mohammed also said Israeli leaders encourage lynch mobs to attack Palestinian homes and businesses. Former Republican candidate for governor Lee Zeldin called the speech rabid anti-Semitism. Mayor Eric Adams called them words of negativity and division. Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas called the speech a public expression of hatred against people and communities based on their religion, race, or political affiliation. Democratic Congressman Richie Torres called the hijab-wearing graduate student, quote, crazy. Yet, Mohammed has found support among the Palestinian advocacy groups. They say the campaign against her is the latest installment of attacks against Palestine advocates. The New York chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations denounced what it called a silencing of voices. Pakistan has criticized the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, for meddling in its internal affairs. On Wednesday, the country's State Minister for Finance, Dr. Aisha Ghaus, called a statement by the global lending agency's senior official in the nation interference. Nathan Porter said the country's political situation is extraordinary and that the IMF was taking note of recent political developments. The IMF mission chief in Pakistan also said he hoped a peaceful path would be found in accordance with the constitution and the rule of law. Pasha said Pakistan's behavior was under the law and that interference in Pakistan's internal affairs was not part of the IMF mandate. She also cautioned that delay in a $6.5 billion loan program signed in 2019 is neither in the interest of Pakistan nor the IMF. The global lending agency has yet to release about $1.2 billion to support Pakistan's ailing economy since November last year. Pakistan is in a severe economic crisis, with foreign exchange reserves dwindling and the national currency rapidly losing value. The country has been in considerable political turmoil since the overthrow of former Prime Minister Imran Khan last year and an ongoing crackdown on his party's supporters. A story on the Qatari Prime Minister meeting Taliban Supreme Leader comes with details after the break, so stay tuned and we will be right back. Welcome back. Qatari Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani has held talks with Taliban Supreme Leader Hibatullah Akhundzada. According to an Al Jazeera report, the talks took place on May 12th in the city of Kandahar in southern Afghanistan. The visit took place in the context of facilitating relations between Afghanistan's caretaker government and the international community. This was the only time an international leader met Hibatullah. The two sides also reportedly held talks on women's rights and the reopening of schools for girls and women. A photo of Syrian First Lady Asma al-Assad picking roses in Damascus is causing outrage on social media. The photo, circulated by French news agency AFP, was seen as an attempt to whitewash the Syrian government's abuses. Earlier this month, Syria was readmitted to the Arab League. According to news website Middle East Eye, criticism of the photo is part of a broader debate about normalizing relations with the Assad government. The First Lady is among the most influential business and government officials in Syria. She has made speeches in support of Syrian forces which have killed, brutalized, and tortured opponents of her husband. A UK-based human rights law firm filed a lawsuit against her in 2021 for her role in the Syrian war. The United Nations Human Rights Office estimated last year that over 300,000 civilians were killed between March 2011 and March 2021 due to the conflict. At least 27,000 of those estimated to have been killed were children. A rights activist says 90% of refugee camps housing Rohingya in Burma's Rakhine state have been destroyed by the recent deadly Cyclone Mocha. In an interview with Turkey's Anadolu news agency, Neyse Luen said hundreds of Rohingya have been killed and many are missing. He said at least 30,000 refugees have been affected by this disaster. The powerful cyclone hit Burma and parts of Bangladesh last month. In 2017, the Burmese military's brutal crackdown led to a mass exodus of Rohingya Muslims from the country's northern region. Since then, some 1.2 million Rohingya have fled to neighboring Bangladesh and live in squalid conditions in the world's largest refugee camp in Cox's Bazar. Omani fashion designers showcased their latest creations during a recent fair held in Muscat, the capital of Oman. The 2023 Oman Beauty and Fashion Fair featured a vibrant mix of traditional and modern styles reflecting the diversity and dynamism of the Omani fashion scene. The catwalk was bursting with color and innovation as each designer brought a unique perspective to their collection. The fair highlighted the country's rich cultural heritage. It also signaled a vibrant future for Omani fashion and caught the attention of international fashion fans and industry experts. A space capsule with 2 Saudi astronauts aboard returned to Earth late Tuesday night. The SpaceX capsule landed off the coast of Florida, completing the second private mission to the International Space Station. Brianna Barnawi, the first Saudi woman in space, her compatriot Ali Al-Qarni, and Americans Peggy Whitson and John Schaffner waved happily at the cameras after the hatch opened. They spent 8 days at the orbiting outpost. Their trip was organized by the Axiom Space, which chartered the mission with NASA. According to media reports, the mission was a publicity coup for Saudi Arabia, whose ruler, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, is eager to project a friendlier image of his country globally. NASA is now focusing on missions deeper into space, such as returning to the moon with humans and then onto Mars. Before we end today's news, I would like to extend a special request. It takes more than 55 hours of work per day to produce this news segment for you, and it brings news with a unique and fresh perspective, and you can find it only on here, on Muslim Network TV. Sound Vision is a not-for-profit organization which produces it. And just like PBS and NPR, we depend on your donations. Please visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now or click the link below to donate. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.